I can hear you.
Okay, so are we starting?
Sure, if you want.
Yeah, okay. So one more time, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. It's a pleasure to celebrate with the Califer family. As Brody becomes Bar Mitzvah, we begin our morning prayers singing Matovu, how good are your tents, O Jacob. We look forward to spending the morning together, and we invite you to pray with us and to participate actively. The Califer family has taken great effort to making the prayer book accessible to you with explanations so that you could be really engaged and really be present here this morning. Even though some of us are in different places, we are going to come together, and it's going to require a lot of focus and a lot of breathing. So we sing together. We continue for Brody on page 296, as Brody is going to lead us with the words for the study of Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kadeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. And Brody is going to teach us some words of Torah at this time.
Elu devarim she'ein lechem shior she'adam ochel peretechem be'olam hazeh והקרן קיימת לו לעולם הבא ואלו הן כיבוד אבאים וגמילות חסדים והשכמת בית המדרש שרית וערבית והכנסת אורחים וביקור חולים והכנסת כלה וביאת המת וביון תפילה והבאת שלום בין אדם לחברו ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם.
These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. We continue now with words of praise, also in our morning celebrations, to wake up together, to sing together, to share in the joy of this moment. We're on page 306 in the prayer book, Brody, and you, the rest of our congregation, has the words and can share in the joyful feelings of hallelujah, thanks, and gratitude for being together this morning and singing together. Hallelujah, 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 El Becho, hallelujah, Dirkia, so hallelujah, Igvurotav, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Betzil teleshama, hallelujah. Betzil telekua, hallelujah. Betzil teleshama, hallelujah. Betzil telekua, olam shama, הללויה, כל הנשמה. זה הללויה, הללויה, hallelujah. We continue with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 312, and then we begin with our call to worship. Yitgadal Shemei Rabba. ועל מה דברי חיותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון ובמכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בהגעה ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו.
אמן. יחי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ועמי עלמיה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה.
בריחו.
ואלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה ותושבחתה ונחמתה אדם ירבה עלמה ואמרו.
Amen.
We rise if we are able. We are invited to rise as one community. They're called to worship the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvarei choshe oseh shalom uvarei et hakol hameir la'aretz ve'ladarim alecha barachamim uvtuvo mechadesh bechol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai kulam b'chokma asita mala ha'aretz kinyanecha tiparach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yedecha ve'al ma'orei or shechasita yefa'arucha selah or chadash al tzion ta'ir v'niskeh kulanu mehera la'orot Baruch Ata Adonai Yotzer Homorot.
And Brody has beautifully led us through the words of thanks for this beautiful day. And we continue with the reading in English that's in your programs in red. I invite you to read this blessing with me. O God, inspiration and guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land and every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one, unifier of humanity. We give thanks to the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully, we recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel, and joyfully we remember that from the dawn of Israel's life, we would turn to you and find purpose. May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds, and their passion for righteousness stir our hearts. Help us to live so that our daily conduct reveals the beauty and wisdom of your truth.
Baruch Adonai habocher ba'amo Yisrael be'amama Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
And if you have been standing, please be seated at this time.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך וחיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לפניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohim Emet. We continue with our prayers, remembering our freedom. And it is always a reminder for us to continue to fight for those of us in the universe who are not yet free. Sing these words together. Mi chamocha. Ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha Elim Adonai mi kamachane b'kodesh Torah tegilot osefet Torah tegilot osefet Shir chadash k'nechogeu li v'shimcha sfatayam yechaku lavodu ve'imritnu ve'aru Adonai Yivot Le'alai Adonai Yivot Le'alai Sur Israel como Bezat Israel ופדחנו בחיודעי ישראל ועלינו אדוני צבאות שמות קדוש ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. I invite you once again to take this opportunity to rise, to extend, to stretch as Brody leads us with the blessings, the prayers of the Amidah. We are going to begin together and then we are going to continue individually. Please rise.
Adonai sefeta tifta ufia gida hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Chanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Ve'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot Imahot Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ava Melech Ozer Umashia Umagen Baruch Ata Adonai Magen Avraham Ve'Izrat Sarah Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechei HaKol Ata Rav Leoshia Meshiv HaRuach Umerid HaGashem Mechachel Chaim Bechesed Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, umi domela, melech mimi umechaye, umatmiya Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata lechachayot hakol, baruch ata Adonai mechaye hakol.
Tekadesh et shemcha ba'olam, כשם שמקדישים אותו וישמרים אותו ככתוב על יד נביאך וקראתם כבחמה קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך Adonai, Adonai, Baruch Kevoch Adonai Imkomo Echad Uavinu Hallelujah.
Le dor vador. Le dor vador. Le dor vador nagid gad lecha. Le dor vador. Le dor vador. Le dor vador nagid god lecha. ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם, לעולם ועד. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גדלך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גדלך, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Continue individually, either with the beautiful prayers of the ancient tradition on the page or the individual prayers of your heart at this time.
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to
Shabbat
Temple
Shalom.
B'nai Or, wherever you are in the world. We are creating a Mishkan. As our Torah portion talks about, the Israelites are to build this Mishkan, this dwelling place for God. So wherever we are in the world, we're coming together to create this holy space together. And because it is a holy space, like if we were in a brick and mortar synagogue like I am right now. There are hallways, there are rooms where people schmooze, where people greet each other with Shabbat Shalom, where they say Mazel Tov, things like that. So you have the chat box on Zoom that you can do that, wish each other a Shabbat Shalom, wish the Calipers a Mazel Tov, say where you're coming from, introduce yourself. As we introduce ourselves and welcome ourselves to the Shabbat morning service, we welcome the Torah in our midst. So if you are able, you rise in body, we rise in spirit for our Torah service. Brody, I want you to imagine for a second that you're standing on the bima at Temple B'nai Or, that I'm there with you, the cantor's with you, your family is there, your community is around you. And you're on the bima, and I would tell you then to imagine that the bima is like Mount Sinai. This raised place is like the mountain that our ancestors stood where they received the Torah. And our tradition says it wasn't just our ancestors who stood there, but it was all the generations who were and all the generations that were yet to come. So you stood there at Mount Sinai. So I want you to imagine that you're standing at Sinai now as if you were standing at Sinai then. And you're there to receive this gift of Torah. It's not just words on a scroll, it's our being, our way of life, our way of continuing life. So as your parents hand you this Torah, someday in the future, God willing, you'll do the same as we continue to hand the Torah to generation to generation to generation. So Corey, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, the grandparents?
Yeah, if the grandparents could come up and, should we do it down here in
Yeah,
front?
just bring it right up here.
Yeah.
Not Zachary, just Brody. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shemo. beautifully led. Thank you so much to the Califer family. Brody, if you could at this time offer us your words of Torah and share with our congregation your learnings and your teachings.
This whole thing is my speech? I don't remember it being this long. Alright. Let me take off this mask. Alright. Hi, and welcome everyone. And thank you all for coming to my bar mitzvah. I am so happy you're all here, so now I'm just going to talk a little bit about my Torah portion and what today means to me. In this week's Torah portion called Truma, the Israelites are asked to donate gold, riches, food, and whatever else they could give, so that they could have what they needed to build the Mishkan, which is the sanctuary for God that they carried through the wilderness. The majority of my parsha was written with the detailed instructions on exactly how it should be done. They answered this call with abundance and followed the instructions piously. Vocab word. When I was working with Rabbi Satz to try and understand my Torah portion, we came across this article by Lawrence Hoffman, and to paraphrase his commentary, everyone donated, even people who have very little or nothing to give. They donated because they wanted to bring God into their lives. Even if they were poor and didn't even have enough to eat, they still contributed what they could to create a magnificent dwelling place for God, a sanctuary. This let everyone have a part in the building of the Mishkan, and everyone was equal and participated in its creation. Even though the story is old, it has an important ideal because it can help other people in the modern Jewish community thrive. Working and giving equitably as a community helps strengthen the bond between the Jewish people and God. Through giving, we are bringing God's presence into our lives, and it is a spiritual act in the Jewish tradition. I would like to be a very generous person throughout my life and to donate to charities such as soup kitchens, homeless shelters, and animal sanctuaries. But to help strengthen the bond that I have with God and to take after my ancestors and donate as much as I can. And it doesn't always need to be material things. In addition to money, you can give them time, talent, and love. I am grateful for all the gifts I've received in my life, from God and from my parents. It gives me a feeling of fulfillment and happiness when I can share my gifts and provide comfort for people less fortunate than I, and I would love to continue helping other people throughout my life. I've collected canned goods for soup kitchens on past birthdays, and I've spent time volunteering at a food bank. I've had experiences going to New York and Newark, where we give out food, water, and blankets to homeless people. I have been fortunate in my life, and therefore the Torah teaches me to give and help other people. For my Bar Mitzvah project, I decided to raise money for people who are in need and created bags of food, water, and COVID supplies. I wanted to enlist some of my friends to help me make these hundreds of bags, but then COVID happened and there were so many rules to stay safe. I was lucky to have one day when my friend Alex came to help, but it was too cold to do it outside with more people. So I ended up having to make almost 500 bags all by myself. Just like the Israelites did in my Torah portion, I was giving and sharing food, water, and supplies to people who needed it. This act helped me better understand the Torah portion that I was covering and helped bring me closer to my ancestors who tried to donate and help people as well. I'd like to thank you all for your contributions and help in my quest to try and make everything a little easier for others during this winter season and difficult time. Now that all of that is out the way, I just wanted to take a moment and recognize something. I know this must be weird for you guys to be watching over Zoom, and believe me, it's weird for me to do it this way as well. Unfortunately, these last 2 years have been very difficult for many people and could not allow us to be all here together. But I would like to thank you for trying to support me and showing up today, even though it's not in person. I'd also like to thank Miss Lisa, my Hebrew teacher, for helping me to learn all the prayers for this day. I'd like to give a special thanks to Rabbi Satz and Cantor Galit for helping me to prepare for today and also lending a helping hand to teach me along my journey of becoming a bar mitzvot. Finally, and I know that they've said this before, I would like to thank all of you, and especially my parents, for sharing this moment with me and being a part of my life. I know how lucky I am.
Thank you so much, Brody. And now we're going to continue with the ancient words of the Torah, which you have worked so hard to be able to chant beautifully today. We have in our program the Torah blessings for those of us who are coming up to do the Torah blessings, so please bring those with you. I'd like to invite for the first Aliyah, Joshua Califer, Rachel Califer, Caleb Califer, Tristan Califer, Elliot Califer. יעמדו יהודה בן רעות ושמואל, רחל בתיה בת נחומה, חווה ושלמה, חיים בן רחל בתיה ויהודה, טבי ישראל בן רחל בתיה ויהודה, אליהו יעקב בן רחל בתיה ויהודה, לעלייה הראשונה.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
אמן.
וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל וקולי תרומה מאת כל איש אשר ידבנו ליבו, תיקחו את תרומתי, וזאת התרומה אשר תיקחו מאיתם, זהב וכסף ונחושת.
Blessing after, please.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'toheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Before I call up Aliyah 2, Brody, can you unscroll the scroll a little more so it's like open?
Of course.
Here we go. For Aliyah 2, I am honored to invite JC Khan, Justin Khan, Vivian Khan, and Eleanor Khan. יעמדו ברכה בת יעקב ויוסף בן רבקה וראובן, חנה פנינה בת ברכה ויוסף, ומינה בת ברכה ויוסף לעלייה השנייה.
ותחלת, oh wait, someone else is saying now. All right. Talking about
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch atah
Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et
Torato.
Baruch atah Adonai
noten haTorah.
אמן.
ותחלת וארגמן ותולעת שני ושש ועזים ורועלים מאוד דמים ורות תחשים ועצי שיטים שמן למאור בסמים לשמן חמישה ולקטורת הסמים אבני שועם ואבני מילואים לאפוד ולחושן.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'toheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
אמן.
ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי.
Stop.
No?
For Aliyah 3,
Bye.
I am so honored and to invite Brody's parents, Corey Califer, Jonathan Califer, and of course Zachary Califer to join us on the bima for Aliyah 3.
Thank you.
יעמדו באשה שמחה בת יעקב ואברהם, יעקב בן רעות ושמואל, מאיר בנימין בן באשה שמחה ואברהם יעקב לעלייה שלישית.
Baruch et Adonai
Hamvorach.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
אמן.
ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם ככל אשר אני מראה אותך את תבנית המשכן ואת תבנית קלקלת וכן תעשו. ועשו ארון עצי שיטים 2.5 אורכו ואמה וחצי רוחבו ואמה וחצי קומתו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'toheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah.
Amen. And for the fourth Aliyah, we
Hold
would
on
like
one
to
second.
invite-
Let's have a blessing for all the people who came up to invoke God's blessings over the reading of the Torah. Misha berach avotenu v'imotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah Hu yavarech et Bnei Yisrael. May the one who blessed our ancestors Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless all of those who have come up to the Torah in honor of God and this Shabbat. May they merit from the Holy One of blessing protection, rescue from any trouble or distress, and from any illness, minor or serious. May God send blessing and success in their every endeavor, together with all Israel. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen.
And now we would like to invite Brody. Now is a bar mitzvah for his fourth Aliyah. Ya amor b'chur bar mitzvah Yitzchak ben Pasha Simcha ve'Avraham Yaakov la'aliyah la'Torah.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah.
Amen.
V'tzipita oto zachav tahor mibayit u'michutz tetzepenu v'asita ala zer zachav saviv v'yatzakta lo arba tabeot zachav v'natata arba pamotav u'shtei tabeot al tzalo ha'echad u'shtei tabaot al tzalo ha'shenid Vasei vadei atzei shitim v'tzipita otam zachav. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah.
Amen.
Misha berach avotenu v'imotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. May the God who blessed our ancestors Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bring blessing to Broden Kellifer, who's reached the age of responsibility and was called to the Torah for the first time. We celebrate the dedication that brought you to the sacred moment today. May God watch over you. May your parents continue to raise you to full adulthood, leading you to a life filled with blessing of Torah, Jewish learning, of chuppah, the joy of a loving relationship, and of ma'asim tovim, good deeds. May you find favor before God and the entire Jewish community. And together we say, Amen.
Amen.
Mazal tov, mazel tov.
Mazel tov! Throw the candy. Aim for Broden.
Good shot.
I mean, you can take it out of the bag.
I mean, yeah, you guys gonna hit me or what? Miss.
You're tempting fate.
I mean, you don't get it.
Ow, my face.
Okay.
Ow.
Enough. Go ahead.
Can I eat one of them?
Not yet.
Okay.
Now we're going to
not
hear
yet.
words of blessing from our parents. Okay, you can hit him some more. And now we're going to hear words of blessing from our parents.
that's enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
Broden, you worked so hard and exhibited so much perseverance to become a bar mitzvah, to mark your becoming a Jewish man. None of us expected a year ago to be having this ceremony under these challenging circumstances, and I wish you could have had an in-person bar mitzvah like I did and like your brother did, instead of doing it on Zoom. However, in a way, this is fitting. For millennia, Jewish people have faced challenge after challenge. They have been at best ostracized from the larger community, and at worst marked for extinction and torture. Oftentimes, in the countries our ancestors lived, gathering to practice our religion was illegal. However, for thousands of years, generation after generation, Jews have chosen to continue practicing our traditions regardless of what challenging circumstances made that more difficult. For this reason, I believe that God has blessed your bar mitzvah in a special way. For today, you did what so many Jews have done before you and practiced your religion even when it wasn't easy or ideal. It is a wonderful example of Jewish manhood and fills me with so much pride and makes me feel so great that I just want to shout Baruch Hashem.
Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
May all the attributes that you possess, which served you so well today in performing your bar mitzvah, enable you to continue to serve God's will. May all your actions and every word you speak praise His creation, and may you continue to do what is right, even when it is not easy.
Brody, I love that Daddy ended on that note.
Maybe I'm talking to the mic.
I think they can hear me. I love that Daddy ended on that note because that is what you always do, the hard thing. Because you know what's right and you're not afraid to put in the work. When you were little and went to Willow, you were asked to pick which virtue you most strongly embraced. Which one was your favorite? You always picked perseverance. And it's more true now than ever. Although back then it was easier for us to see it as obstinance, and it was definitely a parenting challenge, you would never let anyone get away with injustice, never back down from a fight, and never gave in to an argument or admitted defeat. You would sit for hours in a timeout just to prove you could outlast me, and you often did. But now, as you have grown and matured, I see this trait as the foundation in your integrity and righteousness, a determination to succeed and to exceed every expectation. The ones Daddy and I have for you, but more importantly, the ones you set for yourself. We are in awe of you. I have had so much joy watching you fall in love with your piano over the years, composing original music and playing the classics so beautifully, and you are doing that now because you didn't give up before when it got hard. You never do. You push yourself at every opportunity. You are always looking for a taller mountain to climb, a steeper cliff, a bigger leap. You are excelling in school, not because it's easy, but because you care. And you are inspired to make the world a better place for the exact same reason. You set big goals for yourself. Daddy and I are so proud of all the work you did in order to be standing here right now. And of course, your mitzvah project. We always knew you'd do something to help the homeless, but the plans we talked about involved in-person volunteering and personal connections. The events of this year made that so hard, impossible actually, but you persevered. You created Hearts to Help, where you planned to assemble care bags for those in need. You did the difficult work. You figured out what to put in each bag and how much money you'd need to make it happen, and you raised over $4,000 to get it done. You've so far delivered 400 bags to shelters and soup kitchens, and we couldn't be more proud of your dedication and diligence. This is only the beginning of what it means to be a man, but you are showing us over and over that you have the wits, the compassion, and the drive to do anything you set your mind to. We are so proud of who you are today and can't wait to see what you're going to do next. In the words of your grandfather, big things. You are going to do big things, but you will always be my baby.
I thought Gracie was your baby.
Well,
Beautiful.
all right. All right. I'm going to keep this one really short because my parents took ages, and I was told to, keep it pretty brief. So, look, I know I'm not supposed to go crazy with the words, but Brody, I love you. You're such a cool dude. You're a great brother. Even when we're fighting, I'm always grateful to have you around. We're polar opposites, but I gotta say, there's not a single person on planet Earth I'd rather be bound by physical, societal, and familial reasons to be attached to for the rest of my life. Between your dashing good looks, brilliant brain, exceptional willpower, and determination, you're quite the example for me to, look up to. I know you've worked really hard to get here today, and even though, because of this crummy virus, it's not all you imagined, I'm so proud of you. You've done a great job.
Thank you. Ow!
Mazel Tov, Brody. Mazel Tov, Califers. Thank you so much for sharing your words of blessing with us. At this time, we are going to lift and dress the Torah before we move on to Haftarah. So if I could ask the congregation to please rise while we lift. Sure there's nothing on it? You could dress it together, and Zachary, I think, is holding it. I don't remember who. No, the other way, the other way. You had it right the first time. And I think we're having Zachary hold it. I don't. Please be seated once the Torah is placed.
All right. We come to the Haftarah. Haftarah is the concluding reading from the books of prophets. As in our Torah portion, it talks about the building of the Mishkan or the Mikdash, the sanctuary in the desert. In our Haftarah, it talks about the building of the temple in Jerusalem with King Solomon. King Solomon has an ally in this building, King Hiram from Tyre, a king from Phoenicia, and non-Israelites. And I think this is a beautiful vision of the Israelites coming together with others to build this temple for God, as the prophet Isaiah later will say that my house shall be a house of prayer for all peoples. There's this vision of Jerusalem that the world is coming to experience God, to worship, to pray to God all together in Jerusalem. But Jewish tradition sees that everybody coming in their own difference, in their own ways of being, that not everybody is to be a Jew, but everybody is going to come together in their diversity. Broden will begin the Haftarah with blessings and end with a blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar bin ve'im tovim v'ratza v'divrechem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet Vatzedek. Petach הצלע התיכונה אל כתף הבית הימנית ובלולים יעלו אך התיכונה ומן התיכונה אל השלישים ויבנה הבית וכלהו ויספון את הבית גבים ושדרות בארזים ויבנה היציע על כל הבית 5 אמות קומתו ויאחוז את הבית בצי ארזים ויהי דבר אדוני אל שלמה לאמור הבית הזה אשר אתה בנה אם תלך בחוקותיי ובמשפטי תעשה ושמרת את כל מצוותיי ללכת בכם והקימותי את דברי איתך אשר דיברתי אל דוד אביך ושכנתי בתוך בני ישראל ולא אעזוב את עמי ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם סור כל העולמים צדיק בכל הדורות האל הנאמן הבוחר ועושה המדבר ומקיים שכל דבריו אמת וצדק על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה ושנת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לה ומברכים אותה יברך שמך בפי כל חי העמיד לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen.
We rise if in any way you're able as we return the Torah to the ark.
Alrighty then.
Brody,
Yes.
I want you to imagine again that you're standing back on the bima at Temple B'nai Or, and the cantor and I are standing in front of the ark looking at you. So it's been an honor. It's a pleasure and honor to study these words of Torah with you. A lot of people, when we get to this part of the Torah, they get bogged down in the details and lose sight of the meaning. But you taught us a very important lesson about what Truma means, about gifts from the heart, and how our ancestors gave to serve God, to glorify God, they gave because they're in this community of giving, the community that gives to each other, and giving is a way of serving God. And I know that you will live that value as you taught us. So I want to talk a bit about the details, though. Right? So there's the phrase, the details, of course, in our Torah portion about all the kinds of yarn and all the kinds of leather and the gold and the silver and where this goes and how to build that. And You know, it's like as I said last night, an IKEA, instruction manual or a Lego instruction manual of how to build this holy space. And there's this phrase in English that the devil is in the details, but I think the Torah would say, no, 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 no. You find God in the details. That having this plan, you need a plan and the details and the care for what everything is and where it goes to build something that's holy, to build something that's bigger than any specific detail. Like, you'll know, looking at a musical score, that each little thing goes together for something greater. And the detail of each specific thing is what makes it special. God is in the details. And so we look at the world and we can be overwhelmed by the bigness. But when we look at the details of the world, like the person in front of you, like the person who happens to be homeless that you're feeding, that you're caring for, that could just be seen as, oh, that's just a detail. But no, that's the most important thing in the world right there. God is in that detail. Beauty is found when you zoom in, and when you zoom in and then see the bigger picture. That's holiness. That's building this holy space in the Torah for the temple, but in the world, the whole world is that holy space. So my prayer, my hope for you is to continue to be detail-oriented, to continue to have these plans, to have these goals, to have these ways to see each detail, meaning each person, each holy spark in the world, each note on the score that builds this orchestra, that builds this mishkan, this dwelling place for God.
Beautiful words. Thank you from Rabbi. I just want to add a few of my own blessings to you, Brody. I do resonate with all the details, definitely to make this beautiful day come to life and this program. There's so many little details that came together to create this beautiful holiness that we shared this morning. But I actually want to offer you blessings and prayers from the fact that this Shabbat is Shabbat Zachor. It is a Shabbat before Purim. And sometimes Reform congregations would read verses from the scroll of Esther, which we traditionally read on Purim. And those are exactly the qualities. I'm going to echo your mom's words and her blessing to you. Dedication, diligence, and perseverance. These are qualities that are so rare these days with this generation and this time of like immediate gratification. And to have these qualities also are going to, in the future, I hope will influence you in all of your life, but especially your Jewish identity. I do hope and pray for you and for the Jewish people that with these qualities that you will continue to lead us, because you also have these other qualities, which I so appreciated when spending time with you, is that you have this beautiful, positive, and calming energy, which is also a wonderful, set of qualities to have for leadership. So I pray for you that you continue to engage Jewishly and that you continue to lead the future of the Jewish people. Mazel tov on a job beautiful done today in leading us in prayer and in Torah study. And the rabbi and I would like to offer the priestly benediction, that is our ancient prayers that have people shared. יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
Broden, may the Eternal One bless you and protect you.
יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונקה.
May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
May God's presence always lift you up. May God bless you with the peace of shalom, with the gift of shalom, the gift of peace and wholeness. And we all say, Amen. And there's more blessing. I ask Brody's extended family, wherever you are, to please rise as we thank God for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach this joyous occasion.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
You may all be seated. I want to add some more words of Torah to expand on the idea of truma, the name of this Torah portion. This word truma, which means a gift of the heart. At the beginning of the section about the building of the wilderness sanctuary that the Israelites will carry with them through their wanderings, God spoke to Moses saying, "Tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts for me from every person whose heart is so moved." An ancient rabbinic telling reads our verse more literally. Tell the Israelites to take for me an offering. From all whose hearts prompt them to give, you shall take my offering. So the Midrash asks, what is God's offering? Through a similar word, it links our verse to a verse in Proverbs that we sing at the end of the Torah service, "For I gave you a good doctrine, my Torah, do not forsake it." God gives Torah, and we give gifts, offerings to God. And this is not about payment for services. This is about relationship. Relationships are about giving and receiving. When one is in a real relationship, one wants to give. In a healthy relationship, I would say, our parents give us our lives, and so we give back. Our lovers give, and we strive to give. God gave us everything through creation. So as the late 19th and 20th century Rabbi Shimon Yehuda Shkop writes, God planted eternal life within us so that our greatest desire should be to do good to others, to individuals and the masses, now and in the future, in imitation of the Creator. He continues, the entire I, the ego of a coarse and lowly person is restricted only to his substance and body. Above him is someone who feels that his I is a synthesis of body and soul. And above him is someone who can include in his I all of his household and family. But someone who walks according to the ways of Torah, his I includes the whole Jewish people, since in truth, every Jewish person is only like a limb of the body of the nation of Israel. And there are more levels in this person who is whole, who can connect his I. He should feel that all of the world and worlds are his I, and he himself is only one small limb in all of creation. Then her self-love helps her love all of creation, the whole world. And so as the cantor spoke about Purim, which is coming Thursday night, Purim, I'll try to connect this by we feel this miracle of Purim, the saving of the Jewish people by Esther and Mordechai. And because of this miracle, we feel gratitude. Another Rabbi Eliyahu Dessler writes, gratitude is a form of giving, and giving leads to love. At the time of the first Purim, the first Purim, our rabbis tell us, Israel accepted the whole Torah in love. The more gratitude, the more joy. The more joy, the more gratitude. We need time to build up this tremendous experience. And so with every day of this month of Adar that passes, our joy increases. And so, with gratitude, and gratitude comes from relationship through gifts. Others give, we give gifts to them, not gifts meaning, a basket of Hamantaschen, but the gifts of ourself, the gifts of help, the gifts of love, the gifts of grace. That's what Truma is. Our people coming together in the Torah to give their gifts in love, to build something that was greater than the sum of all the parts, of all the details, as I was saying, to give this love out into the world. Shabbat Shalom. And so let us now, if you're able, rise as we begin to conclude our service.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורר עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity, cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
We think now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at the season in years past, and those who we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We are in the period of Shloshim for Jay Goldman, for Rita Weber, for Shirley Platt. This week marks the yahrzeit for people in the Temple B'nai Or family of Arnold Albin, Fred Bernstein, Michael Bernstein, Evelyn Barbarosh Birsch, John Bishop, Kay Sammy Blasberg, Sam Chase, Danny Gottsagen, Ethel Gutterwill, Claude Hagelberg, Stella Halpern, Eileen Hallway, Louis Levis, Sydney Mayer, Jane McKee, Ruth Pomerantz, Edith Ratcliffe, Rosario John Renda, Renee Sains, Lawrence Saltzman, Regina Schick, Elva Schwartz, Jack Schwartz, Mildred Stern, Mary L. Tolkoff, Harry Wasserman, and Sander Weinstein. If you're thinking of others, if you're remembering others, please feel free to say their name out loud, put their names in the chat box. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for blessing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divrach yirutei, v'amlich malchutei, v'chayachon, v'yomechon, v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala, v'vizman kariv, v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Amei Amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal Shmei Dekudesha B'richu. Ve'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata damiran bi'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'imramav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen.
We continue with Kiddush. I'd like to invite the Califer family to come up on the bima and lead us in Kiddush.
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beni uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti leolam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
Ken berach Adonai et Yom HaShabbat vayekadshehu. Please raise the glass. Brody, raise it and continue.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pori hagafen.
Amen. Take a sip.
L'chaim.
Chaim.
Wala hala. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lecha min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Mazel tov.
Mazel
Got one?
We did it! Woohoo!
All right. Before you guys all leave, I'd just like to say thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I'm glad to see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd, and I'm glad that all my friends can make it, even people tuning in from Brazil, France, all over the world. Hi. I'm so glad that you guys can make it. That's not the camera. That's not the camera. It's fine. Knew the camera was here the whole time. It was a turnaround thing. It's perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And although we couldn't do the party today, it should be sometime in like June or something. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. You guys better watch out. It's going to be insane. Boo. All right. Thank you guys so much. Oh, hi, Papu. How's it going? I love you. Bye.